Okay, well, good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for our second popcorn webinar. Appreciate everybody joining us tonight. We will record this and also send you out the presentation afterwards. So if for some reason you get disconnected or have to jump off the call, you'll still have the material. So tonight's webinar, we're going to cover effective storefront sales. And we are very excited to have with us this evening a guest presenter. His name is Sean Stanford, and Sean is with Cub Scout Pack 2017 out of East Vale, California. And Sean's pack, brand new last year in 2017, sold over $190,000 in Trails End popcorn. So Sean's going to share with us some of the secret ingredients to that success, and we'll have an opportunity at the end to answer any questions you might have, specifically to Sean or about the presentation this evening, and obviously anything else popcorn related we can answer. But at this time, I do want to thank Sean for joining us. He was recently married, and I hope we're not doing this on his honeymoon, but I do appreciate him joining us, and I think it's going to be very beneficial for those of you that are on the call. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Sean. And I'm going to make you the presenter, Sean. Sean, you might be muted.
Give me just a moment.
Okay.
Sorry, in order to make me a presenter, it was making me download an extension real quick.
Oh, okay.
So let me try one thing, because I think it's got my mic going double. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you pretty well, yep.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. My name is Sean Stanford. I was the popcorn team leader for Pack 2017 last year. And we sold just over $190,000 in popcorn. Our focus was on storefront sales. I'm a huge fan of storefronts for a variety of reasons. They're very predictable, very scalable. If we wanted to sell more popcorn, we just worked more shifts. And that meant more stores or more hours a day or more days of the week. And I'm going to share with you some best practices. I'm going to kind of stick to the high-level stuff as much as I can, get through the basics pretty quick. But we'll go to some Q&A at the end, and I'm happy to stick around and talk popcorn for as long as you'd like. But just some basic best practices here. Start early. Our council sale starts August 18th. We started booking our storefronts back in April, May. We're still working on some stores right now. In fact, one of my popcorn team members told me that we just got confirmation of one more store that I can add to the schedule. But we definitely get started early. Not only in booking stores, but also in our signups. We actually released our sign-up schedule about 10 days ago, a month before the sale starts, because we want to start bringing those people into the schedule, have them start booking their shifts. It'll help us predict what our sale is going to be and what our first popcorn order needs to be, and to see where we're at relative to last year. Focusing kind of just on how we actually did the math behind our storefronts. We realized pretty early on that the scouts and parents were only going to spend so much time on this sale. And the number of hours they'd spend selling is going to be the biggest limitation we have. We can offer prizes and incentives to get more hours, but at the end of the day, the hours they spend selling is the biggest limit to our selling potential. So we had to make those hours as productive as possible. That's why we only work with one scout and one parent per shift. The simple math, our kids averaged about $250 in sales in a 2-hour shift. If I put 4 scouts at the table instead of 1, we probably would have sold double that, close to $500 per shift. But that drops our hourly average from $125 per scout hour to more like $60, $70 per scout hour. And if the number of scout hours you have is the biggest limitation, you're going to cut your sales potential in half. Now with our system, we're trying to just do everything we can to maximize each scout's sales. We do that through training as well. We go to a den meeting. For every single den, where possible, I'll go to 2 meetings and just cover the basics of how the storefront's going to work. We talk to the parents about how to merchandise the table, how to run the credit card software that we're using. We use Square, and just common situations they might run into, how to coach the kids through certain things, just overall keep them on board with our process. And then we spent a lot of time training the scouts. We had a bunch of different scripts they could pick from, and they'd pick their script, they'd write it down, make a couple changes so it felt more comfortable and natural for them, and then practice it. And while they're off practicing it, I was talking with the parents, but then we come back together, they've memorized their script, and we work on role plays. And what I found pretty early on, a lot of the kids, when they're role-playing these situations, the buyer always says yes, because that's what they want to hear, so it's just more fun to say yes. But that's not what happens out there. So I made a bunch of 3x5 cards of what buyers will actually say. Oh, I don't have cash. I don't eat popcorn. I already bought. All these various excuses that they might hear. Or even questions of, well, what are you selling? Why are you selling it? And so now in these trainings, the scouts are hearing all the different things that a customer might say. And then we had 3x5 cards that we give them to have the appropriate response to that. That way they can learn what all of these objections are, all these situations they're going to run into, and be able to overcome all of those objections. Another best practice of ours, we secure commitments at our kickoff. Our unit kickoff, it's the usual thing. We talk about the popcorn sales, dates, prices. We play some games and things like that. But we always end our kickoff with a commitment. And last year we did a top seller commitment. A scout would come up on stage with their parents and pledge to work 10 2-hour popcorn shifts, which would put them on track for $2,500 in sales. Then we would let them pie-face leader at the kickoff. And that's just for the commitment to sell. This year we expanded that program. Instead of just the top sellers at $2,500, we had our crazy seller commitment. If you could commit to selling $5,000 in popcorn, you get 3 pies to pie-face leader at our kickoff. The first year, last year, we had 21 scouts sign up as top sellers. This year we only had 13. Because we had 17 crazy sellers committing for $5,000 or more in sales. So between our crazy sellers and our top sellers, we had 30 scouts commit to $100,000 in sales at our kickoff a month before the sale started. Another basic best practice is to communicate often, early and often. I'm always telling people what we're doing with popcorn, why we're doing it. Even at our various events throughout the year, we're always reminding them, hey, popcorn paid for this. And I'll touch more on credit cards in just a minute, but credit cards accounted for about 25% of our sales. And I'm extremely confident that if we didn't accept credit cards, those sales and more would be gone. So we will always accept credit cards. Our team talked a lot about those fees initially. And after seeing the way things work, we'll never have that conversation again. We'll always be accepting credit cards. Digging a little deeper into how we actually run our storefront. Again, we've secured our locations early. We focus on high traffic areas, and you can actually use Google for that. If you have to choose between two stores because you only have enough scouts to work at one of them or what have you, Google Analytics is a free service. You Google a store, and you might have already noticed this, but a lot of times there's a little bar graph on the side when you Google that store. And it tells you the busy times of the day, and you can set different days to be looking at, a Wednesday or a Friday or Saturday or what have you. But the idea is you can see what Google predicts the foot traffic at any store to be, so you know which stores are the ones you want to be at if you can only be at one. We break our store days into 2-hour shift blocks. On any given weekday, we're selling in 2-hour blocks from 4 to 6 and then 6 to 8. And we work 4 to 5 weekdays a week. Sometimes we take Mondays off. Weekends, we break into 5 2-hour blocks starting at 10 a.m., ending at 8 p.m. Again, 1 scout and 1 parent per shift. And the way we do that, just using a Saturday as an example, we sell at more than one storefront at a time. I can't go and set up all these storefronts, and I'm not going to stay and babysit them all day long. So if you sign up for the first shift, which starts at 10 a.m., you come to my house an hour early. You pick up your table, banner, tablecloth, all the popcorn, and you're out set up at your store and selling when your shift starts at 10. In between shifts, we have a shift change form, which I believe is already being made available to you. But the idea is both parents can count the cash and count the inventory, and they both sign an agreement of what's there. That way you don't have anything go missing throughout the day. And then the last shift of the day, which ends at 8 p.m., packs everything up, brings it back to me, and it gets checked back into inventory. Works extremely well. This year we're selling at up to 14 stores simultaneously. And that's how we're going to be doing this. Every parent helps out. Now, we ask our scouts for an 8-hour commitment. We don't charge dues, and we pay for their entire scouting program, their awards, advancement, recharter, all the pack campouts we go on, Pinewood Derby, Blue and Gold. It's all free to the scout. All we ask of them is an 8-hour commitment. That's 4 shifts. They can pick them on our schedule. And we average right around $1,000 in sales per scout in those 4 shifts with that 250 per shift average. So it brought in over $330, $350 per scout. More than enough to cover the entire program and some extra equipment that we needed last year. Credit card processing is key. We use Square. Every parent brings their own mobile device. We just leave the credit card reader in the cash box. So when you show up, you grab it out of the cash box, bring up all the sales. When your shift is over, you put it back in the cash box for the next person, and you're free to go. And then we track scout sales. I'll talk more on that in just a minute when we get to the Square slide. Communication. We have a PAC website, Facebook page. We use Scoutbook for email, so I've got everyone's email. And we start text message groups. We communicate constantly throughout Popcorn. Remind people what we're doing, why we're doing it, when the sale starts, and really try and get people on our schedule to book. We put our storefront schedule on the signup.com. That way the parents can look at the schedule at their leisure and jump on there. Actually, I was just on there. I'll click over to our schedule real quick. There you go, signup.com. So they can see the various stores, and you can see the green days are completely full. The blue days have an empty shift. And they can just scroll down and pick their shift and book it. And from my perspective as a leader, because I'm on the admin privileges right now, I can see, this store has 58 out of 60 shifts booked, and that's for August 26th. So I know I need to fill those shifts. Now, as we get closer to that date, I'll be more concerned about those 2 shifts. Right now, I've got plenty of time to fill it. But when I need to fill it, I will be going back to the communication aspects and reaching out to our scouts by Facebook, email, text. Get them on that sign up and book that shift. And because we only have 1 scout, 1 parent per shift, if someone cancels on us at the last minute, that's a problem. So we have what we call a fill-in team. It's a group of people on a remind group that reach out to each other when we have one of those last-minute cancellations, and they jump on there and fill in that shift. And usually that's a lot of our top sellers, particularly with stay-at-home parents. They have a lot of scheduling flexibility, but it really helps us out in those types of situations. We don't need that many people because sign-up will automatically remind people of the shift the day before they're supposed to work it. And it makes it really easy to put on their calendar. So it's rare that we do have someone drop off, but when we do, we've got a group of people ready to jump in. Have fun. This was a big part of our kickoff. We set a unit goal. Now, our goal was, we didn't actually advertise a specific number. Our goal was simply to pay for our program. And we broke that down per scout, that we needed about $1,000 in sales, which is about 4 shifts in front of our stores. And we had all sorts of unit incentives. We actually opted out of our council's program, came up with our own prize program. And it really built onto it because we wanted to encourage the scouts to go the extra mile. And the more they sold beyond their goal, the bigger the prize was. Right? We just tried to communicate this as a fun way that we're going to fund our entire program for the year. So rather than hit them up for money at every single event and charge dues once or twice a year, we're going to pay for everything through popcorn. But we're going to have fun doing it. One of the things I don't get to say too often, our popcorn team would drive around and check out the storefronts. And one of the things that we did is we bought a bunch of bags of Skittles, of all things. And whenever we drive by a store, we toss a bag of Skittles at the kids. Just have fun with it. Hey, thanks. Hope you're having fun out here. Here's some candy. And just surprise them that way. Keep it fun. We had a pie face competition as one of our unit incentives. For every $1,000 in popcorn a scout sells, they get 1 pie to pie face a leader at our pack meeting after the sale ends. We came up with all sorts of fun new ways for the kids to earn bonus pies all throughout the sale. So if you were the top seller on any given weekend, if we had a lot of kettle corn sitting in inventory, whoever sells the most kettle corn this weekend, gets that bonus pie. Whoever signs up for at least 3 shifts this weekend, because, hey, we're a little light on the schedule, they get a bonus pie if you sign up for at least 3 shifts. Whatever we needed, we had fun ways to get the scouts to do it. And simple whipped cream pies were a great way to make that happen. Credit cards. Absolutely key for our success, because not only did it represent a huge portion of our sale in terms of the credit card sales, it boosted our cash sales. The most common objection people have to buying popcorn is I don't have any cash. A lot of the people do, that's just the go-to excuse. They don't want to say no to the cute kids, so they have that excuse of, I don't have any cash. When you accept credit cards, you can take that excuse away, and you've got kids out there saying, that's okay, we take credit cards. Right? And now that customer's got a choice to make. They can either invent a new excuse to not buy popcorn, or they come back to the table and they buy something. And the vast majority of people just come right back to the table and they buy something, and a huge portion end up paying with cash because they had cash the whole time. That was just a go-to excuse. Now, our unit eats all the credit card fees. We don't pass those on to the kids or anything like that. That comes out of our cut. But it was so worth it because it was an incredible boost to our sales. But not only that, we used the tracking feature that Square has. Square allows you to create employee accounts. we created an account for every scout as an employee of the pack. And when they were out at the storefronts or going door to door, they would log into Square on their parents' mobile device using the login that we gave them. And because all of their sales, credit and cash, get logged into Square, we knew their sales progress in real time. I knew every single bag of popcorn that was sold, when it was sold, and who sold it. And that's just an incredible amount of information when it comes to tracking inventory, tracking sales. Every scout knew what they sold, so did I. And the great thing is I knew my top sellers right away, but most importantly, I knew the scouts that were struggling, the ones that were underselling peers. And I don't want to find out who's struggling 8 weeks into the sale when everyone's handing in their forms and, it's over. I want to know right away because that's a scout that needs more encouragement or training or some sort of support. So I'd reach out to their den leader and say, hey, at the next den meeting, can you pull them aside, talk to them about this stuff, and practice scripts, practice role plays. Let us know what we can do to help grow their sale. Resources and tools. I'm going to pass this back, but we've developed a lot of resources for our pack that we're making available to everyone. And I believe Chris has got a few things to talk about on that. So I'm going to try and pass presentation back.
Great, Sean. I think I've got the presentation back. So thank you. If you have any questions, you can start to put those in the Q&A, and we'll answer those at the end. If you have questions specifically for Sean on some of the things that he talked about. Really not a lot of science to it, but some strategy. And I think hopefully you'll walk away with a couple of items, if not all of them, that you can use in your unit. So let's talk a minute about some resources and tools that we have available to you. We have a storefront request letter, kind of generic, that you can customize for, as Sean mentioned, identifying those stores and those high traffic stores, to get permission, obviously, to participate in having them participate in the popcorn sale with you. So that's posted on our website. You can download that, modify it for your particular unit, for the store's name, the manager's name, and then I think it's recommended that you hand deliver that. I think I heard Sean at one presentation hand deliver it in uniform. Right? The uniform speaks a lot. I think if you mail it, it has a tendency to get lost in the shuffle. So kind of hand carry that letter, request letter. Sean mentioned some tracking documents, and we've added those up as well that you can use for your storefront sales and show and tells, locations by shift, and calculating the money, those kinds of things, having parents and scouts sign off on it. So we've posted that up there for you to use. It's really just an Excel spreadsheet that you can print out and use. There also is a Scout Code of Conduct. Bring up, here's a sample of the letter, and then also a sample of the Storefront Sales Code of Conduct, and encouraging all of the scouts and parents to abide by this. Remember, we're guests of that particular store or establishment, and we don't want to destroy our future relationship with them. So, talking about uniforms and all that good stuff, but a nice piece to hand out to folks so they know what the expectation is when they're at that particular store. Sean talked a little bit about some credit card processing services, Square, PayPal, there's lots of others out there. Obviously, we would encourage you to investigate those a little bit before you commit yourself, but I think several units over the last few years have used Square and have been very successful with that. And I like the idea that it kind of creates an employee. Each scout is an employee, and you can really track their sales using that, whether it's cash or credit card. So a nice feature that takes a lot of the guesswork out of it for you. And he mentioned also some Google tracking, and there's some Google tracking sheets out there. But I think the idea of identifying those stores that are high traffic when they're the busiest. Obviously there's some factors, rainstorms and snowstorms and those kinds of things will have some impact on that. But we'll give you a pretty decent idea on what the foot traffic at that particular store might be on a particular day or during a particular hour. There we go. So just to recap a couple of really tips, and then we'll cover one more slide, and I'll give you an update on something, and then we'll allow you to ask some questions. So, really just asking folks, scouts and parents, for an 8-hour commitment. One scout, one parent. I think we all know and probably have experienced that if you get multiple scouts there, what tends to happen, and that's unfortunately when stores ask us not to come back because kids get a little rambunctious. 2-hour shift blocks, right? I think asking folks to do any more than that, especially at the Cub Scout level, we're just asking for trouble. 2 hours really is a nice, the actual investment time is probably a little bit longer getting there, maybe picking up the product and the supplies, or at the end of the shift, delivering it back to wherever it needs to go. So it's a little bit longer really than 2 hours. So just keep that in mind. Multiple locations, you don't have to sell at one store all the time. Move it around to different locations. Have multiple show and tells going on a particular day. The interesting thing that Sean and I were discussing earlier today was about weekdays. People go to the grocery store on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights, and some of those locations will allow you to sell during the weekday. So I would consider those as an opportunity, especially if you have a large pack, and you have weekends, but not everybody's able to sign up for those. Offering them weekday opportunities is a good opportunity as well. And I think the other piece really is I don't work for Square, but accepting credit cards, and I think Sean discussed that very well, the benefits, and if they had not accepted credit cards, what their sales would have been like. So certainly something, and I think the signing up for Square is pretty simple and fairly quick, right? You don't have to wait 30 days or whatever. It usually is a quick process. So some resources, and I mentioned some of the tools we have. We got tons of resources on the michiganscouting.org/popcorn2018 site. You can go there and download all kinds of stuff, resources for the unit. There's prize forms, there's order forms in English and Spanish, just lots of resources, scout scripts, storefront trackers, all kinds of things. So I'd encourage you to check that out. If you haven't signed up for our text message service, you can do that. Text MCC POP to 555-888. We'll send out some updates and reminders, and you're certainly more than welcome to share that with other leaders in your unit, parents. We'll probably try to communicate some promotions that Trails End may be offering for online sales. So if your folks really want to get real-time updates, instead of an email, they can text the MCC POP to 555-888. And also, if you have any additional questions throughout the sale, our MCC popcorn at scouting.org email is monitored almost 24/7 throughout the sale. So if you have questions or need help, you can certainly reach out to that email address, and we'll get back to you shortly. All right, so at this point, we'll take some questions. Let's see if anybody has any. Yep. Let's see. Let's see. We can get back there. Okay, let's see. So we got a question here. How much does Square charge for processing fees? Is it a fixed fee or a sliding scale based on volume? Sean, I'm going to make you the presenter. Let's see if Sean is the presenter now. Awesome. Yep, sounds like he is. So, Sean, I'll read the question, and maybe if you can answer it. Let's see. How much does Square charge for processing fees? Is it a fixed fee or a sliding scale based on volume?
Square is a fixed fee.
Yeah.
I believe it is 2.79% for a swipe transaction. They do have a slightly larger fee for a card not present transaction, which would be if you don't have a swipe reader and you have to manually punch in the numbers, or if you're taking an order over the phone. You know, maybe you're selling to grandma who's going to be there to pick it up on Thanksgiving, and you're not doing an online order. Then you could do that. I believe that is 3.5%. Now, Square does offer, I believe, 2 or 3 different types of readers. There's the standard swipe reader that just plugs into the headphone jack of the phone. Those are free. They usually give you one when you sign up for your account, but if you ask them for more, they'll send you more. They also charge for certain other readers. You do not get a lower rate when you buy the other readers. They're chip readers. There is some fraud protections there, but the readers are battery powered, so you need to be able to plug them in if you're going to go all day on a weekend. We did not get those. We processed $50,000 in credit card transactions, and I think had $20 that was disputed as a stolen card. Each one of the chip reader things cost like $60, and I would have needed 10 of them. So rather than buy $600 of the chip readers, I took a $20 hit on a bag of popcorn. So that was just kind of a no-brainer there. We're sticking with the swipe readers.
And those work for Android and iPhone?
Yes, the only trick with iPhone is the newer iPhones do not have a headphone jack. So you will need to provide the Lightning to 3.5 millimeter adapter. They're, I think, $9.99 on Amazon or Best Buy. I would make sure you buy the genuine Apple ones, though. I tried buying a knockoff brand, and it worked fine with headphones, but not the swipe readers. The Apple branded ones, though, worked fine with the swipe readers. And I just bought one for every swipe reader and left them in the cash box.
How many scouts are in PAC 2017?
This is an interesting thing. We actually recruit at our storefronts, which was key to our success. We were a brand new unit, started June 1st with 33 scouts. We have 110 scouts today. We don't do any traditional recruiting. We don't go to back to school night or anything like that. We advertise at our grocery stores. We're there for the entire 8-week sale. We work, weekdays, weekends. We have big banners out there. We pass out recruiting flyers. We take information from those that are interested and call them the next day. But the idea is, if you have school nights, you may or may not hit people. They have other things to do. If you're recruiting in front of your grocery stores, people have to eat. You'll see them. And it made for a great recruiting tool. I mean, we've recruited 70-some scouts into our pack that way, and then referred about 50 scouts to either our local troop or other units if that shopper happened to be from outside our area. Maybe they're visiting friends and family and just need to pick up something at the grocery store. So we referred them to a unit that was closer to where they lived. But all in all, we recruited over 100 scouts through our storefront tables.
Wow. Yep. So obviously, a real strong benefit that you're selling popcorn as well as recruiting. So let's see. Who do we talk to about requesting to sell in front of the business? For example, is the target store manager going to have authority, or will we need to contact corporate? Sean, what's your experience with that?
My experience is you really want to deal with the store manager. Now, if you said Target specifically, Target themselves have a corporate policy against allowing various units or organizations to fundraise. For the most part, from what I've heard from units nationwide, is that's pretty strongly enforced. I think I've heard of one unit that's sold in front of a Target. But for most stores, go in there in uniform with that letter. If you can, bring your scout in uniform, because this is a very personal ask. We're asking for very expensive real estate. We're asking for it to be free. And in some ways, we're selling a competing product. You can buy food in the grocery store and out up front at our table. So if it comes across as a business type decision, the easiest thing to do is to say no. So we make it as personal as possible. We ask the store manager, we explain that we're the scouting unit in the area and that we're trying to raise money for our pack. And, this is my son. He's in our pack. He wants to go to summer camp. There's a whole bunch of other kids just like him. And that's what we want to do. And a lot of times, just like at the popcorn table, they don't say no. They come up with an excuse. And sometimes that's, I need to look at our calendar. I need to talk to corporate. You need to talk to corporate. There's all sorts of different excuses. Sometimes they're just in a bad mood. So we have to come back. And we have to try more than once. My Walmart is a great example. They had not let any scouting unit, Boy Scout, Girl Scout, anything, sell there in over 5 years. And every time we went in there was a new excuse. I'm too busy. I've got to look at the schedule. I've got to talk to the general manager because we were dealing with a front-end manager. All sorts of different excuses. And what they really wanted was for us to just stop coming back. But we didn't. Every 2-3 days, we'd be back in there until finally the general manager got tired of seeing us in there and just said, hey, why are you here all the time? And we just explained very politely, we're the local pack. We're trying to raise some money for our troop to, pay for summer camp and things like that. And we've been working with Dana, the front-end manager, and she's working through all these issues. And at that point, he said, well, that's a bunch of bull. Pulled out what they called their solicitor binder and said, take what you want. And we got 8 weekends at that Walmart. And no one had sold there in 5 years. So it's just a matter of being persistent. We went there over 12 times. And every time it was a different excuse until finally it was, okay, you can have whatever you want. So you have to be really persistent. In some cases, you may have to work with corporate. My partner in popcorn, Tom, was working with the corporate office of a local grocery chain for the past 6 weeks or so. And just today got permission to sell at 2 of their stores. And they've never let any unit fundraise outside of their stores before. It's a small local chain. They're not used to it. We had to get jump through a lot of hoops, but eventually they said, sure, not a problem. So it's really a matter of making it as personal as possible and being persistent. And overcoming objections. One of the common objections we've heard is we don't want to deal with all the units or all the fighting. We have another path in our city. So we booked all the grocery stores in the city, and we told the store managers we were going to share it 50-50 with the other pack. So you don't need to worry about talking to multiple people or anything like that. We're going to give them everything they need, and we're going to be fair about it. We did. And we do that everywhere we sell. We work with anyone that needs shifts, we'll get them their shifts. Because even though we go crazy with popcorn and do huge numbers and what have you, I'm not going to let that hurt another unit. And I'm not going to let that hurt our relationship with the store. Because the last thing I want is for another unit to go into a store wanting to sell and complaining that we'd be monopolizing the store or something like that. So we share and make sure everyone's covered. I know I kind of attacked that from a whole bunch of different angles there, but I hope that answered the question.
Yep. No, I think that's good info. And my experience too is, depending on the store, the chain, a lot of times the local store manager has a lot of autonomy to make those kind of decisions, and sometimes you unfortunately have to go up to the corporate ladder and get their permission. So it just really depends on the store. But I think persistence and all of that pays off. The one thing, and I know it's sometimes an objection for folks, and that's we don't want to be responsible if somebody gets hurt or whatever. As a council, the Michigan Crossroads Council, we can provide them with a general liability insurance certificate, so that anything that would happen while they're out there selling, the store is covered as well. So,
when I mentioned that grocery store chain that just let us sell at 2 stores, that was exactly one of the hoops we had to jump through. Is they were concerned about the liability, so we had to get a certificate of insurance from our council to make sure they were covered if something did happen.
Yeah. So another question here, Sean. Looking back, what 3 things would you say moved your sales in your first years from your first 10,000 to the next 20,000?
Oh, that's tough. We had an expectation that everyone was going to sell. That everyone was going to not only sell, but pay for their program. And we described that as $1,000, which is going to take you 4 shifts. So everyone was going to participate. It was mandatory. We're not charging dues. We're not charging for these events. We are going to sell. That gave us a significant base to get started. And then when we offered the top seller type initiative, and we offered them the pie face at the kickoff for committing to it, but we also made that tier look really appealing. Since we were doing our own prize system, we made sure $2,500 in sales gave you a great prize, and we combined that with the Trails End Scholarship, so now it's like double the value. And then our council actually had an incentive for a unit that sold, or for a scout that sold $2,500. So we combined those 3 incentives and made it look really appealing. And hey, if you do that, you get to pie face a leader at the kickoff. That helped us secure 21 scouts promising to sell $2,500. I mean, rough math, that's $50-some thousand. On top of the rest of our scouts, which was 15, 20 or so at the time, they were going to sell 1,000. So we were starting with just a huge base, and we had a ton of excitement and positivity going into it. we never talked about the big numbers. It was our September pack meeting when we were 5 weeks into the sale, when we actually told people we'd sold 130,000 at that point. Before then, no one knew what the pack was doing. They knew it was a lot of popcorn, but they had no idea. They were just having fun. And we didn't want them to focus on this big, intimidating number or the big picture. Just do your part. Do your 4 shifts or do your top seller. And if you want the prize, go big. And from our standpoint, once we had that excitement and that momentum, we just had to keep feeding the machine. We had to make sure we had plenty of shifts booked and that we stayed on message. Shifts were available. We were letting people know. We were getting those shifts filled. The sales tracking let us figure out where everyone was so that if someone was coming short of the top seller goal, we could let them know. If a scout that hadn't pledged to be a top seller was getting close, we'd say, hey, if you just work another shift or two, then you jump into that 2,500 top seller category, and you're going to get all these cool prizes. So jump on board, and when you know, we got a couple empty shifts this weekend. So the first weekend, we did 20-some thousand because we had that huge base to start. But we didn't tell everyone these huge numbers. We just keep that momentum going, keep it fun, keep it exciting. And that's just what carried us to the next step, to the next step, to the next step.
Good. So are the forms available for you to share? If yes, what is the website? So the website is michiganscouting.org/popcorn2018. And as I mentioned in the beginning, you'll get a copy of this presentation. That information will be in there as well as the recording. So if you wanted to go back and listen to it. I've got a question here from Greg. When will Kroger sign up be available for MCC units? So, Greg, we hope to have that live this weekend. We've gotten permission. We've done all of the work on the back end, so we're hoping to launch that this weekend. In addition to that, we've also got a couple of, depending on where your unit is, we've got some other locations that we're kind of handling very similar to the Kroger, Woodland Mall, and then also we got confirmation today from Cabela's and Bass Pro that will be participating. They will be participating with us, and we'll be, setting up the schedule with the Kroger. So you'll be able to do Kroger as well as some of the other locations that we've secured. We are still working on Spartan Nash. They haven't really been too responsive. They did in the beginning, but it's kind of fallen off their radar. But we're continuing to push that one. I can't make any guarantees that will come through, but the Kroger's Cabela most likely will be this weekend. So make sure you sign up for our text message service, and hopefully you're getting our emails that when that's launched. And then you'll also get an email from Elena, who's our popcorn customer service staff person, when that officially opens up, and then you can go in and lock in your site. How did you calculate what to order for storefront sales?
For that one, we talked to my district colonel and a few other units about how they sold and at what rate they sold. And we figured they were coming in at what would be about $220-ish an hour. I apologize, not an hour, per shift, which is about $110 an hour. And we knew that we'd be doing some extra training and the credit cards and a few other things. So we figured we'd be somewhere between $200 and $250 per shift. That's how we based it. We released our schedule 2 weeks before we actually had to place our order. And we had 350 shifts booked by our parents before we placed the order. And so we knew that would come in somewhere between $70 and $90-some thousand in sales. And we knew more shifts were being scheduled. So we were able to confidently place a $100,000 popcorn order as our initial order. Our council does have one mid-sale order, so we knew we'd be able to get some more popcorn in the middle and then the take order at the very end. We actually needed popcorn a little bit early because it was selling faster than we had projected. The shift signups actually kept coming at a rate that we weren't expecting. So we had to get some more stores and open up a couple extra weekends on some stores that we weren't planning on using. But the excitement and the momentum was there. That was really what it came down to. Is just, and then that's one of the reasons I really like Storefronts. Is once you have a pretty good idea of what your sales rate is, you can look at how many stores you have booked, what your momentum is in terms of parent booking shifts, and project out your sales. And actually, my council order was due last night. So that's exactly what I was doing last night, was looking at where my shift signups are at and projecting out our order.
Awesome. And those are obviously good problems to have. That if the excitement and momentum is there, and you need to book more locations, or if you need more product, if your sales going that well, you let us know, and we'll do everything we can to make sure you have enough product. The worst thing you can do is have show and sell locations, people signed up to work them, but then not have the product. So let us know that, and we'll do everything we can to get product in your hands. So, all right. Well, this one went a little longer than we originally scheduled, but I think it's great. Lots of questions, lots of conversation. Appreciate everybody joining us. I do appreciate tremendously Sean's participation this evening. Hopefully, each of you learned some tips and tricks and some of the special secret ingredients that they used for their sale. Again, I don't think it's rocket science. I just think some of it's strategic. And so appreciate Sean joining us, and we will, again, send out this presentation to you along with the recording. Hopefully it works out with the flipping back between presenters, but if not, you'll at least have the presentation, and I'll have a conversation with Sean if you have additional questions, how you might be able to reach out to him. Well, I just got an email from Sean. Okay, so Sean has offered Sean has offered an invitation that if you have any questions or need some help with your sale, feel free to reach out to him. His email address is Sean.Stanford, STANFORD, @popweaver.com. And we'll include that in the email with the presentation so that you have it, and you can reach out to Sean if you have some questions or want to dive into something a little bit deeper that we covered tonight. So with that said, thank you all for joining us, and we hope that you have an outstanding sale. Looking forward to it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.